back to another episode of The Marital Mission. I am your co-host, LaRodrius McDowell.
And I'm Shamika McDowell. So today we're going to talk about something that a lot of couples deal with: infertility. It's a shameful topic that people really don't talk about. I think we focus so much on, protecting ourselves during our sexually active years of not having a baby. And then when you do fall in love, you get married to the one that you love, and you expect that love to produce another life. And when it doesn't happen, you feel like you have come up short and you feel inadequate. So we're going to be dealing with this tough topic today. Hopefully this blesses those who have been dealing with it. If you know somebody that's been dealing with it, tell them to tune into this episode, because we're really going to touch on how it affects marriages, how it affects individuals as they try to figure out who they are in this space that nobody expects to find themselves in.
It took a while for us to get to this point where we can feel comfortable with having this conversation with one another and being able to share with you. So we're going to peel back the layers of all those things that we felt and just have on this conversation.
Well, let's start from the beginning.
Yeah. It was about maybe a year and a half into the marriage, I think, when we decided that we were going to start trying.
Mm-hmm.
Before then, we made a conscious effort to not get pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Being that, I guess we had heard that it was better to enjoy ourselves. And, we had an opportunity to just get to know each other.
Right.
And to build a solid foundation for our marriage. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a trip where I took a trip back home to Louisiana for a distant cousin's funeral. And during that time, there was another death that had happened to some people that was close to us. And it made us realize that
life is short.
And tomorrow's not promised.
Yeah. But even before that, we had an agenda of things to do. I know for me, I didn't want to have a child before 30. And I know that you weren't strict on that.
Dang, we've been married.
Yeah. I wanted to wait at least 3 years before we got married when I was 27. Yep. I was 27. You were 28.
Dang.
Mm-hmm. It's been that long. It's been that long. And I wanted to wait 3 years. I didn't want to get pregnant before 30. And I wanted to allow us that time to, like you said, get to know each other.
Yeah.
I wanted us to travel. We said that we were going to go to Africa first.
Yep.
And I think we had another thing.
Which we accomplished.
Yes. We did all of that in those 3 years.
Yeah.
We, like you said, saw the deaths around us. And we were like, man, maybe we need to go ahead and at least try.
Yeah. My thing was, I know that a baby is a blessing from God, and that it's not something that you can just snap your fingers and it happens. So I was open to the idea of it happening. I didn't want to try to prevent it from happening anymore. And so that's where I was. That was the space I was in. Like, okay, if it happens, great. But until then, I'm ready to ride it out.
Yeah.
So how did you feel about it?
I honestly treated it like a tick mark. Mm. Like, you get married, you have time to yourself, then those questions start coming. Okay, when's the baby coming? And, you entertain them for a while. So once I got to that point, it just figured, okay, well, this is something else to accomplish, to add to your life's resume, so to speak.
I got you.
So I didn't have a thought. I will say God talks to people in different ways. And if you listen to the first episode, you heard me talk about how God spoke to me at certain times about us before we got married. Well, God spoke to me when we made the decision to have a baby. I heard that same voice say, okay, you're going to have a baby, but it's going to take a while. And I heard that clear as day. So when most people think, oh, we're just going to have sex and we're going to have a baby, I didn't feel that way.
Yeah.
Like I felt that, okay, this may not come easy for me, but easy for me was, or not easy for me was, oh, it'll be 6 months to a year, maybe. And we'll just enjoy practicing until it happens.
Yeah.
But then 6 months turned into a year, and then a year turned into 2. And then here we are 5 years later, and still no baby. So,
yeah. There's just so many things and nuances that go into this topic. It's not an isolated area in our lives.
How has it affected you, us not being able to conceive?
Well, in the beginning, I say the first 6 months to a year, I guess I was kind of like you. I didn't really stress over it too much. Mm-hmm. I just figured, well, it hadn't happened yet. It'll happen soon. But as the years kind of rolled on, I saw you begin to battle with it a little bit tougher. I initially did not know how to support you. I didn't know how to be there for you. I didn't know what to say, if I should say anything, if I should get closer to you, if I should give you space. Before where, I'm building up this rapport as a husband and, okay, well, when she has a headache, this is what she likes. When she's tired from work, this is what I need to do or say. And so having this new thing come in, it felt as if there was nothing that I could do or say to bring peace and comfort. So it was hard for me to talk about or deal with the emotions of not being able to conceive a child. Mm-hmm. I mean, to be honest, I was angry at times. I was confused. I was frustrated. I felt that I lacked as a husband because I could not comfort you in that area. I think I realized that I didn't have the power to just be like, okay, well, I'm going to get you pregnant. I know that comes from God. So that was never my struggle. But it was, how do I support my wife in this? And how do I make her feel safe and comfortable while we try? And when she's tired of trying or she doesn't want to try at that moment, how do I still be emotionally and physically available, but not go insane?
I don't know how to enumerate the tough points for me, but I know it was tough still not knowing why we haven't been able to, because apparently we're in the unexplained category where everything looks good. We just don't know what's going on, and neither do the doctors. So here we are. And then the other part is having this rite of passage, how I see all of my friends, I see people that I've gone to school with, and social media is the worst. You see people getting married after you, and they've surpassed you in having children. And it's not a contest. Nothing is a contest, but it's like a sore spot where you see the very thing that you've been praying for happening around you, and it's like this exclusive club, and you're not allowed in for whatever reason. There is no reason. You haven't been presented a reason other than that people tell you, oh, God is using you in this moment. Or if it doesn't happen, there's a reason behind it, and God is going to use you. And it's like, logically, you know that, but in your heart, it still is difficult to take. And so let that be something that if this isn't your struggle, to be mindful of the words that you use or the cliches that you express to those who either don't have children, to just take into consideration where that person could possibly be in their reproductive choices. So for me, I think that has been the toughest to deal with, this rite of passage that I haven't been able to be a part of, to partake in. I don't know, dealing with the ebbs and flows of emotions. Like logically, I know that we're blessed. We're blessed to have the relationship that we have. I'm blessed in my career. I'm blessed to be healthy. I'm blessed to be in a country where I have access to things, food and shelter and all of those things. And it's just this one little nagging area that has been such a struggle. I've learned so much about myself, and I think this has been that thorn that God was talking about. I have prayed 3 times, and each time he says, my grace is sufficient. This has been my thorn. Hopefully, in talking about this, like I said, we bless other people, but those have been the struggles that I've felt.
Yeah. It was kind of like I was on the sideline viewing you go through the struggle, because I didn't have the same struggle. And there have been times in these 5 years that I've definitely maybe struggled. And if I have to say maybe, then it probably wasn't a struggle. I've really, really, really desired for it to happen. But I don't know. I always just have faith that it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, if you have good parents that did not lie to you purposefully and were parents of their word, and they said, I'm going to do this for you, you just believe them. Or they say, I'm going to get you something, you believe them. And even though, maybe a month went by, 2 months went by, at some point it was going to come. That faith has allowed me not to freak out. And then, God has put a lot of people in my life, coworkers, friends, family members, but there was always someone there. And a lot of people through my job, where I was 40 plus when I had my first child, or my second child, or we went through this procedure and that procedure, and after we stopped trying, we had one, or it was 7 years or 8 years into our marriage when we had a kid. So God would always deposit those people into my life to share that with me. So I was always encouraged from that standpoint. And the fact that we had a good marriage and I didn't feel like anything was lacking. I knew that we would be truly blessed with a child, but I didn't feel that in the moment that anything was lacking in the marriage for me.
I wasn't feeling that anything was lacking in the marriage. I felt that I was lacking as a woman.
And I heard you say that, but my message to you was always, you're enough. Mm-hmm. No matter if we have a child or not, like, you're enough in this marriage. And I didn't want you to feel that you were letting me down in any type of way if that was something that didn't happen. I just wanted you to always know that.
And I appreciate that.
There were times like when we would go to Bible study, or we would be out at a function and having a good time, and then someone would announce they were pregnant, or you would see someone that was pregnant, or somebody would have a small child, and then your emotions just would get the best of you. And like I said, sometimes I'd be angry because I'm like, can't you just be happy for them? But then on the other side, I was like, I wanted to be able to give you that happiness, and knowing that I couldn't made me angry, but it was a different kind of angry. And then I didn't know if it was like a spiritual thing. Like, does she have faith that this is going to happen? Like, we praying about this. But then, like, over a course of time and us talking, I knew that spiritually, like, your faith was not the problem. And I think that me always trying to approach things from a logical standpoint, and I guess my emotions weren't as enveloped as yours were, then I had to have empathy in that part where it's like, well, there's an area here that is a sore spot for you, and I just want to make sure that I'm present for you, that I'm there, whatever. Like, I just have to be consistent as much as possible and not waver, and not like, because in your weak moments, I didn't want you to have to worry about, was I going to be there to support?
It's difficult, or it has been difficult for me, because I have the monthly reminder that once again, there is no baby. You know what I'm saying?
But it's there for me too.
No, I'm saying like physically having to feel like hormonally.
I got you.
To witness it.
Yeah.
That week out of the month.
And before I know.
Exactly. Knowing that my cycle is coming, that physically I'm going through a lot.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, facing the realization that this isn't happening once again. Hormones are all out of whack. even when we were actively trying through a physician, like having to deal with all of that, having to go to the appointments, having to get the shots and all of that, like it's been a lot.
Hey, I ain't trying to make light because this is a heavy moment, but going through those appointments, man.
And you didn't even do half of what I did.
I got violated though. Hey,
I got stuck with needles.
This is my Me Too moment. I asked one of my doctor homeboys, the doctor's supposed to wear gloves when they handling you. He said, of course. I gotta forever live with that memory.
When you sit spread eagle.
Doctor, he got on gloves though.
And having them poke and prod.
He got on gloves though. That old man didn't have on gloves. If I see him in the streets. If I see that dude in the streets, man, y'all pray for me. Y'all pray for me.
Oh, I can't with you.
Cause you don't know. I ain't know. I didn't know. And it ain't feel right. You know what I'm saying? So I know I ain't gonna say I know, but I got a little inclination of like how some of those girls felt when they doctor was like, cause I'm like, man, I don't really know, but this don't feel right. This dude's supposed to have on some gloves.
I'm proud of you for speaking your truth.
Yeah. So,
I apologize for laughing at that old man cupping your manhood.
He juggled.
All right, we've gone too far.
So it's been a journey.
It's been a journey.
Also, it affected us in our intimacy. Before we got married, we talked about a lot of different things. And sex and intimacy was one of the conversations. It was good to have talked about it before we got married. After marriage, we were different people before we got married. So the conversation that we had before marriage didn't really benefit us as much because our conversation wasn't as rooted in the word. Mm-hmm. And we were having premarital sex. Mm-hmm. So we were going off of, I guess, what our flesh felt to a certain extent. So my point is, after we got married and we realized now that this marriage thing is more than just saying I do and then just waking up every morning, going to work, coming home, having sex. Once we started to try to have a baby and the whole, are you ovulating?
The schedule of it.
And then the periods come one after another. It started to take a toll on our intimacy.
Yeah, it wasn't fun anymore.
It was more procedural. Mm-hmm. And so I guess more so the sex part than the intimacy part.
Right.
The intimacy started to lack because it was like, okay, I think it's the time. So let's go ahead and do what we have to do. And that took away from a lot of the intimacy that came before it was time to have sex. Mm-hmm. Wake up in the morning, kiss, notes, compliments, small acts of kindness, notes throughout the day. Not saying that it just stopped, but it's difficult to maintain that when, you're dealing emotionally with what you're dealing with. I'm dealing emotionally with what I'm dealing with. And I guess it's fair to say that before then, though, there has been issues with intimacy and like sex and how much do we do. It just coupled with the infertility thing and it became really stressful.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that I was available for you whenever it is that you wanted. But at the same time, I'm feeling rejected.
And it goes back to my previous statement of me not feeling adequate. Here, I can't perform the very animalistic thing that is having a child. Feeling like a failure in that area spilled over into our sex life. I felt that if I can't give you a child, how could I possibly please you as a wife?
Yeah.
It didn't help that the scheduling of it and the stress of it all, it made me not feel sexy and attractive dealing with what we were dealing with. There was nothing sexy about it. So that added on to it. And it wasn't anything that you weren't doing. Like, there was nothing that you could do. I was in my own head. I was having these emotions that were preventing me from being available to you in that manner.
Yeah. And all I heard was
rejection.
We're not having sex. So that led to me then getting in my own head. And then when I'm in my own head, the enemy's talking to me. And then I reverted back to a struggle that I had with pornography that led to even further distance between us intimately.
Right.
It's a thing that a lot of people go through in some shape, form, or fashion. And
what is
not being able to conceive, and then the problems that come along with it.
Yeah.
And as you're going through your day to day, sometimes you feel as if I'm alone in this. You know, there's a stigma behind it. People know that you've been married for a certain amount of time and they question you. Now, it didn't bother me when people asked me.
It still irks me.
My thing was, in God's time, pray for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was my thing.
Yeah.
I want children. When's the baby coming? Whenever God allows for us to have a baby.
You shouldn't wait forever. You're not getting any younger.
So my thing was, I just knew that it bothered you. So I wanted to make sure that I protected you in that manner from those type of comments.
Yeah.
And I tried to.
And I know people don't mean anything by it, but I think that's part of the problem, is that not thinking, like, if it has been this long, maybe there is an issue and maybe I shouldn't question it. Or maybe we don't want kids. And I think society expects you get married, you have kids. That's what you do. Yes, we want kids. And I think that's also a part of the shame, is that even if you do and it hasn't happened, then do I tell people? Because if I tell them, then they feel a certain way. And if I tell them, then now they're looking at me with pity. And so it's like a whole, like a cyclical thing. If I don't say anything, then and that's another thing. It's not, when you mention, why can't I be happy for other people? It's not that I'm not happy. I'm ecstatic for them. It's what's wrong with me that I can't.
Yeah. And I got that. I got that over time.
Yeah.
It was just at that moment, I see you're happy one moment, then you're not happy. And I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Until we start to have those conversations. And it's important for you all to have those if you're going through this, or if you know someone who's going through this, it's important to have those if you're going through this, it's important for you to have conversations with each other.
Yeah.
And don't hold those feelings in. Don't speculate, don't assume.
And if you need to, seek counseling and therapy.
Yeah.
I think that is the one thing that I wish I had done sooner. I'm actually considering going. I'm in a better space now. I've been in a better space over these last couple of years through the grace of God. But certainly if you find yourself getting depressed, which I have been about it, seek help and speak to somebody. Seek a professional. If you feel comfortable with a Christian counselor, please do so. I think talking it out with somebody who will listen, and I think that's the thing, listen. I think when we share, or when we do decide to share with people, they want to offer solutions. Well, just don't think about it and it'll happen. That's not going to help that person in that moment when they're really going through. So I do encourage you to seek help if you are struggling in the area. Hopefully you go together so you could be a support to each other.
Yeah, it's important. the stigma and the shame around getting help is real. Mm-hmm. So being transparent, we've never gotten help professionally.
Yeah.
We've definitely had conversations with
friends, godly friends.
We've sought godly counsel.
Yeah.
But we've never gotten professional help.
Yeah.
And so we know that, I mean, we've had conversations about it, mm-hmm. but actually doing it, you know, I guess it's important for us to have both of us involved in it. Mm-hmm. And so there are times, I think, where maybe one of us felt a certain way about going than other. But, you know, we promote getting help.
Yeah. There's no need to suffer in silence alone. Definitely if you need to take time to, because you don't, at least for me, I never wanted to be or put myself in a situation where I knew my emotions would get the best of me, right? So whenever I saw someone who was either pregnant, I knew I felt a certain way about it. So I decided to remove myself because I don't want to be the Debbie Downer. However, I know now that you can't do that forever. And I definitely still have my moments, but they're not as frequent. But that's because I've been intentional on really getting to the root of why I feel the way that I feel. Again, I don't recommend you trying this on your own. It's good to seek counseling to get to the root of that. Yeah.
I think something that helped was being able to see successful couples' marriages to come before us and see that people have dealt with this, people have overcame it, people have had fruitful, beautiful marriages without children, people have healthy relationships where they've gotten pregnant later in their marriage. So that helped me to manage my emotions and my thoughts regarding the struggle.
If you hadn't seen that,
then I'm pretty sure it would be a lot harder for me to go day to day with the same level of faith and commitment to, you know, I'm going to do everything that I'm supposed to do, regardless of if it's happened yet. So it's important to see those things. It's important to surround yourself, put yourself in the presence of people that have healthy and successful marriages, because it gives you hope. And then you realize that. But
I think it starts with people sharing those stories, because how else would you know?
Yeah.
Unless somebody gives their testimony.
But okay, I agree with you. But you have to open yourself up to allow people to know that that's something that you are struggling with, so that they will, because, you know, it's kind of like, you know, just say if it's a library, this person is a library. They have plenty of books. They don't necessarily know which one to offer you. But if you go in and say, hey, I'm looking for this, you know, then they say, okay, well, hey, I got something here. I know somebody else. So that's how I've always, I mean, I don't just go around saying, hey, I want a kid, but kids come up because I always talk about my marriage. And I, you know, a lot of times when I was at work, I always talk about you. Children come up, you know, and it would be at those times where it's like, well, yeah, we have been trying, but, you know, we just hadn't had one. And then people would offer their stories. So that's what I'm saying. Like, surround yourself with, you don't want to share this with everybody, but definitely want to. Yeah,
be discerning. You don't have to be an open book if you don't feel comfortable.
Yeah. And so that helped me to be able to see that. And not just regarding this issue, but seeing people have healthy marriages allowed me to know that if they could do it, I could do it.
I can't say that that's my testimony. Although I have had a former coworker say that she thought that she couldn't have kids. And I think they were 5 years into their marriage and they wound up getting pregnant. Now they have 3 girls. But I always see it as, yeah, that's God's blessing for you. I'm looking for the blessing from me. And so grappling or trying to envision that for myself has been, if I'm honest, a struggle. Now, you heard me say at the beginning that God had spoke to me and said that it would take a while. It's going to happen, but it would take a while. Still, even now, I struggle with believing that. I know it, but certain times I'm like, did I really hear that? Is it really going to happen? But today's a good day, and I fight to keep his promise in front of me. And today I'm standing on that. I know even in this past year that the things that I have prayed for have more than manifested themselves. So I'm just continuing to pray, and if it is to happen, it will happen.
You're doing more than praying, though.
Yeah, I'm putting action in place.
It's helped you. I've noticed a big difference.
Self-care. Let's talk about that. Self-care is so important during, I hate to say infertility, but while you're waiting for your blessing to come.
Period.
Yeah.
Self-care, period. I'm proud of you. I really am. I've seen you grow over these years, and to know how much you're putting into caring for yourself, loving yourself, embracing who you are, the struggles, the achievements. I'm so thankful that you are taking this time and putting the energy into it, because when we do have a child, the child will benefit from parents who can first love themselves, because the saying is, you can't pour from an empty vessel. And I think a lot of times we don't prepare ourselves for the next chapter in life. And we see time and time again, people have children, and now that the child is there hasn't been a preparation process. And so you're trying to deal with the challenges of taking care of this child, but you're still trying to get yourself together at the same time. And of course, we know that it's an ongoing process, but there are some preliminary things that you can do to prepare yourself. And so I'm glad that you are taking the necessary steps to heal a lot of old wounds and make yourself stronger and a healthier person to live out God's purpose.
Yeah, I'm trying. So if you are dealing with it, man or woman, take care of yourself. Find your self-care routine, whether it's massages, whether it's taking some time to do some reading, take a walk in the park, whatever your thing is. List the things that bring you joy, like the little things. Write those things down and make it a point to incorporate that in your self-care routine. For me, it's physically working out those emotions that I'm experiencing in that moment. Whatever your it is, please do it. Take care of yourself, love yourself, open yourself up to the things that bring you joy.
Definitely. I'd like to plug at this moment a good friend of mine, Sabrina Bronner. She's a personal growth and success coach, and she just released her second book called Moments of Truth, and it takes you on a transformation personal growth journey through the 4 stages of learning life lessons: crisis, healing, growth, and transformation. It's part workbook, part journal. You can find it on her website, sabrinabronner.com. That's SabrinABrawner.com. I appreciate the fact that I have people in my life that love me and support me and can just be there with warm words or just not say anything at all. They know that, and I'm talking about the people that are close to me, they know that, I do want children, and I can just say I appreciate all of you all for the support that you give, not just me, but me and Shamika. But there have been times along this journey when the idea of not having a child, or just the reality of not having a child, loved ones have made comments that has opened some wounds, and it's just been difficult to kind of navigate that, knowing that they mean the best for us, but the reality of hurt, when you're hurt, you're hurt. And perception and intentionality sometimes don't always correlate, and we've had to work through that. One of the things that I appreciate is that love always conquers, and when you put your faith in God and you live a life that is righteous and you step out on faith, things work themselves out. We were never promised that this road, this journey, this life was going to be without trouble, some heartache and some pain, but we do know that it doesn't last forever. Don't allow for temporary moments to cause permanent pain and dissension. As you said that you were working on your self-care, we continue to work and strengthening, building, repairing relationships, and just trying to grow so that, and one thing that I guess I take with me is that through this journey, we'll be able to bless someone else. And it's our prayer that us having this conversation today will be able to bless those who listen. And, true enough, I know that God is going to bless us for sharing this. So we all win. The enemy is already defeated. So I live in that. And that gives me strength day to day. So in those moments when we want to still remain intimate and close, even though you're battling infertility, of course, God made marriage and he made sex for marriage. And one of the reasons he gave us the desires to have sex is to procreate. But that's not the only reason. Make sure that you are not just having sex with your spouse, but you're also being intimate. Get to know your spouse, get to know their likes, their wants, their desires, and do your very best to feel those things. Do your very best to meet their needs, to grow those desires, because when you are intentional on knowing your spouse and meeting those needs and purposefully seeking to please your spouse, then the sex will come, the sex will be great, but you can't always be focused on the sex though. As you get older, for some people, the desire to have sex wanes, and then for other people, your sexual desires, they get stronger. And so you have to be able to realize that sex is just a part of the intimacy process. Remember when you were courting your spouse and the conversations that you would have and how that made you feel on the inside. Remember how seeing their number pop up on the phone, those are the same feelings and emotions that you have to continue in order for the intimacy to continue to grow. If a person has an accident, God forbid, and they're no longer able to perform sexually, does the intimacy stop there? It shouldn't. So you have to find what works for you. Now, I'm definitely not saying that sex is not important and that you should not expect sex or fulfill that need. But all I'm saying is that don't let sex be the end all be all, because you can have sex and not be intimate. Along this journey, don't allow the inability to get pregnant stop your intimacy and stop the sex in your marriage.
Yeah, because you don't want to focus so much on having the child that you forget about the marriage, because if the child comes, you still have to like each other after the child is here. You still have to love each other. You still have to cultivate a loving and happy home for this child that you have been praying and trying so hard for. So as you're going through this, make sure that you're also tending to your marriage and that you're investing time in the intimacy that's needed to fuel it and keep it going once the child is here.
I agree, because I know when the child comes, I'm still going to want to put him to sleep and then put you to sleep.
Be quiet.
Hey, that's what grown married people do.
They don't need to hear about that. That's our business.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I feel a sense of relief. What about you?
I know that I was excited about talking about this subject, surprisingly, because I know God will use it to bless somebody else. That's what I hope. I know that this period, this season in our life isn't for naught, and that God uses everything. He uses the good and the bad, and everything that we go through isn't necessarily for us. We could learn something from it, but ultimately it's for other people to see what God can do. And God specializes in the impossible. I've come to realize and understand. And that has been my saving grace during this period, because it is not easy. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy if I had one. I pray for each and every one of you who is listening to this and you either have dealt with it or you are dealing with it. And again, if you know somebody, please pass this episode along to them. We stand with you in your prayers for a child, whether that child comes through you or comes to you. We know that there are many kids out here that need homes. We know that even if it's not biological, that God can still bless us with a child, and he can certainly do the same for you. So if you are dealing with infertility, know that you are loved. Know that we are praying so hard for you, that God blesses you, and you're not alone.
Yeah.
It's important to know that sometimes when we get in these battles, we feel alone, that nobody understands, and that is so not true. Not only do we understand, we empathize with you, we hurt with you, and we certainly pray for great success.
Keeping in perspective that everybody has a struggle. Mm-hmm. And I know that some people that's hearing this, they may not be able to relate because they don't have the same struggle.
Right.
There are some people that they're waiting on a spouse. That may be their struggle.
Yeah.
There are some people that are married and are pregnant or who have children now,
and they probably wish they didn't have them.
And so that's their struggle.
Yeah.
You know, we all are out here trying, well, prayerfully, we're all out here trying to do our best.
Yeah.
And we just have to make sure that we remain a part of a community that supports each other, that loves each other, and that encourages each other in the moments of trial, tribulation, struggle. But realize that struggle doesn't look the same on everybody. So just because you don't see a person look like they're broke down and, you know, they may not be complaining, that person could be going through. So keep that in mind when you're interacting with people, or just show love to people, because you never know what reaching out to someone, like where they are in their lives when they just need that.
Yeah.
Be present. Be present in the lives of the people that you love.
Yeah. And even when you're going through, and even when you're feeling those pangs of anxiety or frustration, use that time to bless somebody else. I found that the times that I was able to really get out of my stupor of depression was when I was able to help somebody. The problem is still there, but being able to bless somebody during my weak moments has blessed me. Isn't that kind of selfish?
You know, it's selfish if you be a blessing to somebody looking for your blessing in return. But yeah, I mean, our focus should never be on our problems. Our focus should always be on what God has for us to do. And I guess, fortunately, unfortunately for us, our problems don't stop when God gives us a purpose. And we just know that he's going to take care of us. We still have a mission. And so thank him for entrusting us with whatever purpose he places on us.
Yeah.
Just being grateful.
Being grateful and being mindful of each other. And the words we speak, we think they could be so innocuous, and then it could trigger something. That's another thing that's come out of it for me, is being more mindful in the questions that I ask people.
Yeah.
Or the statements that I make.
Yeah.
Not making excuses for it. Not saying, oh, well, I didn't mean anything by it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you meant.
Yeah.
It matters how that person felt when you said it. So I think that has been definitely a lesson for me in how I speak with people.
Yeah. And as far as me, like, I just kind of going back, me presenting myself in a way that renders the desired result, making sure I'm intentional with the words I speak, how I speak to people, sharing certain things about myself. And people do say things to me that I could take a certain way, just having an open conversation with that person. So even if it hurt me, you know, if I speak with that person, sometimes they'll know, hey, well, this is something that I shouldn't do in the future. Or I'll know when interacting with you in the future that I don't need to do this anymore, or just to be more careful or to ask questions before those type of things. So it's a journey.
Yeah.
It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So I think that wraps it up. This was a different feel, I guess, than some of the other podcasts.
Nobody talks about this, especially in the Black community. Like, nobody really has this conversation. And it's just not one of those things that is talked about.
Enough.
So we hope that we are doing our part in sparking the conversation and letting you know that there are others out here that are just like you if you are struggling with infertility, and to be a support to those who are struggling. Whether you're struggling with it personally or not, let's build the support system around those who desire children but have not been blessed yet.
There are options out there, some more costly than others. So just keep that in mind. There are other ways to get pregnant besides just having sex with your wife or your husband. And there were times when we considered it, and then there were times when we ruled it out along this journey. There were times when we said that we weren't going to try anymore, and there were times when we said we were going to try. Allow yourself to feel and have changes of heart, changes of mind, support each other. Allow yourself to feel all those things and just be on the same page. Even if initially you're not there, try to work to a place where you're loving each other, you're supporting each other, and you're building together. So I feel like our time is done here. Guess we'll pray. Father God, thank you for once again allowing us the opportunity to share our experience, share your word, to help build someone up where they're weak. Thank you for pouring into us. Thank you for all of the listeners that are listening right now. We pray that whatever their struggle is, you will send help, that you will let them know that they already have what they need. We pray for comfort. We pray for peace. We pray for strength. We love you. We ask it all in your son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. See you next time.
Later.